Darren Sproles was there, Vincent Jackson.
Yeah.
Those teams were stacked. And when the playoffs came around, they never got it done.
So, Joe had an interesting comp. I don't know that I can 100% go there because of how much better personally I think Lamar is than Phillip Rivers and how much more accomplished Lamar is than Phillip Rivers. But in essence, the Ravens, it is now fair to compare the Ravens to any team that had regular season success, made the playoffs, and didn't have postseason success. You can't say Joe's unfair in that comp. That's what these Ravens have become, sadly. No?
No, they have. But the question in my mind is, will that trend continue? And I picked the Bills to win because the Bills were amazing at home. Josh Allen's been playing out of his mind. And when you look at the numbers for Lamar and the Ravens in the first round of the playoffs and the second round of the playoffs, it's a drastic difference. And I thought that trend would continue. It's so confusing why these moments continue to happen for the Ravens and the worst times and the least opportune times and the biggest of stages. To think that Lamar set a franchise record for fewest turnovers in a season, and then he and the Ravens cough up the ball 3 times to the Bills. It's unbelievable to think that that would happen in that game. But I just think that he's so talented and will continue to put this team in a position to get to the playoffs that eventually I think it's going to fall their way.
I'll say this. I mean, I'm with you on the comp that Joe made. Lamar is going to waltz into the Hall of Fame when his career is over with. There's no comparison between the caliber of quarterback he is versus what Phillip Rivers is. To me, the more apt comparison would be Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
I mean, Peyton Manning, it took him, 7 postseason tries before he was able to get to and win the big game? The first 6 times in the postseasons, the cap was the conference championship game, and he didn't play well. Like Peyton Manning's overall record in the playoffs, his first foray, his first 6 seasons, it wasn't great, y'all. It wasn't. He had 3 playoff wins in his first 6 trips to the postseason. So I think that's probably the better comparison when it comes to Lamar Jackson. And eventually we know Peyton Manning broke through, won a championship in his age 30 season. Lamar Jackson's 28 years old. So there's still some runway. Lamar's still got an opportunity to get some hardware on the shelf. I just think that this is one of those learning experiences where you have to develop that callus that it takes in order to have the kind of success you're looking to have in the playoffs. We talked about it a little bit with the Boston Celtics, how Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum had to go through those disappointments in all those conference championship game, conference finals appearances, and yet didn't break through until last year. I think it's that similar thing with Lamar Jackson. And unfortunately, this time around, it didn't work out. And we're going to continue to have the conversation until he actually does it. But I don't want to pretend that Lamar Jackson is the only player at the quarterback position that we've seen go through this. And we've seen other guys come out on the other side of it with championship rings.
I totally agree with you. I think the Peyton Manning, maybe even Aaron Rodgers comparison is better for Lamar simply because of the fact I never personally ever would pick the Chargers to go to the Super Bowl back in the day. I never thought, oh, yeah, this is the year they're going to beat Manning or Brady. How many people would always pick the Colts or how many people would pick the Packers? I'm talking about actually Rodgers after he won the Super Bowl, which I know is an odd comp because Lamar hasn't done it yet. But I'm saying all those years where you'd pick them, you're like, oh, wow, they fell short again. I don't see the Chargers one only because I don't think anyone ever thought they were going to go to the Super Bowl and surpass Manning and Brady. There are many people who thought Lamar could actually beat the Chiefs. Lamar could beat the Bills, and obviously that has not happened yet. It's a good one to bring up Manning. Jeff Saturday is going to join us. He was Peyton's center. We can ask him about those early years versus this with Lamar. Obviously, Lamar trying to get healthy with the Ravens here, just like people can with GNC. Notre Dame 34-23. They were up 31-27. Notre Dame comes all the way back on a huge 3rd and 11 late in a one-score game. A 50-plus yard pass from Will Howard to Jeremiah Smith, who's about 12 years old and is probably better than any wide receiver in the NFL. That guy is unfreaking believable.
Doesn't look 12 years old.
Oh, my God. He's really 18, I think. He's
19.
19 years old, and he's unbelievable.
It's a grown man.
And Ryan Day lost to Michigan. He's 70-10 and won a national championship. The other big story. Ben Johnson, the hottest candidate out there, Detroit Lions offensive coordinator, gets hired by the Chicago Bears. And we did something a few weeks ago on our show. Go back on the podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, and listen to all 4 hours. And we built out the criteria for what these teams should be looking for with their head coaches. And when CC built out the Chicago Bears, you said basically a been there, done that guy, right? When they make the move to try to get Mike Tomlin and they get turned down, check. That's what you were looking for. When they're interviewing Mike McCarthy, check. That's what you're looking for. Somebody who has almost borderline guaranteed success, okay? And I'm listening yesterday to ESPN 1000, and Carmen and Yurko, Waddle and Sylvie do a little crosstalk that they do at the end of their shows. And John Yurko, who is a former NFL player, played on the defensive line, as credible as a guy that there is, and he simply stated to all Bears fans, no complaining. This is who you all wanted.
Yep.
If it doesn't work out, you can't call ESPN 1000 in Chicago and complain, oh, Warren doesn't know what he's doing, Poles doesn't know what he's doing. You guys all asked for this. He never said it wasn't going to work out. What Yurko said was, you got what you wanted. Now, what I would say in response to that is along the lines of what CeCe said. Are we sure this is going to work? What Ben Johnson is now is what Adam Gase was with Peyton Manning, what Josh McDaniels was multiple times over with Tom Brady. And unfortunately for both of those guys, in 2 different stops, they did not become great head coaches. How do we know that this is McVay and Shanahan and not McDaniels and Gase?
You don't.
So why is it such an obvious sure thing that they got the hottest candidate out there to be their head coach versus the guy that we were saying with Mike McCarthy that you're going to be boring, but you're going to win 10-plus games every year?
Nothing's a sure thing.
No, Mike McCarthy's a sure thing.
Mike McCarthy is about as sure of a thing
He's about as sure of a thing as you're going to get. But I think if you're the Bears, this infuses that building and that fan base with a different type of excitement and hope. And he could be the best head coach that we see come through that division. We don't know yet. We don't know. But you could have gone with the safe choice in Mike McCarthy, who you did interview. You wooed him. You brought him to Chicago. Or you could go with the guy that your quarterback publicly wants, that has had so much success in your division, that's young, could grow with your quarterback together, that could bring in some creativity, some innovation. But it all comes down to they are taking the biggest swing that they possibly can. They think that Ben Johnson, they've identified him, and so many other franchises around the NFL did too, by the way, because he's been a hot candidate, not just this year, but last year as well. They have said, we're going to go and swing for the fences. This is the hottest name out there. We've been watching him absolutely torch our division on the offensive side of the ball. We have an offensive player that is quite literally the future, the present and future of our organization, and we can't get this wrong, so we're going to gamble on Ben Johnson. And I can't blame them. I can't blame them because it's a very sexy hire. It's a very enticing hire. I'm sure that they're enamored by what Ben Johnson can bring to the table, or the prospect of what he can bring to the table. And to your point, the fan base can't be mad at this.
Agreed.
They went out and they did exactly what everybody wanted, the fans, the players, etc. They did it. Now let's see how it plays out.
Well, yeah, in the short term, Ben Johnson gives the organization cover for selecting Caleb Williams over Jayden Daniels. So in the immediate